I'm a Gen Xer. My parents are close to 80. All of my friends have parents that are close to 80 as well. And we're having similar conversations about the next chapter. And a lot of these conversations include the trajectory of real estate. We're also talking to a lot of sellers right now. And we just did a video on first-time home buying, and it made us realize, like, everybody talks about first-time home buying, but nobody really talks about first-time selling. So today we're talking to you if you've ever considered selling, or even if you're thinking about the next 10 years down the road and you're starting to feel that anxiety of, what am I gonna do? How do I start? This video is for you. By the way, I'm Mila Gibson-Bamin, realtor on Oahu, along with my partner, Koa Cassady, Yasu behind the camera. Please leave us a comment. Please share this video with someone if you think it's relevant for them. And if you're interested in working with us, get in touch with us at info@dwellhawaii.com. We're filming today from a listing at 99941 Hulumanu Street. This is in a neighborhood called Halawa Heights, which is right between Pearl City and Honolulu. It's listed by our friends Jordan and Tracy with Coldwell Banker Realty. We thought this house would be the perfect setting for this video today because it's what's considered like a kama-aina home, one that's been in a family for many years. This one actually has been in the family since 1978. And it's very typical of a home that we visit when people call us with inquiries about selling. And usually a house like this, the story behind it is gonna be the kids grew up here, the parents have passed away, kids are all either one of them's living on the mainland, another one is living here, you've got two somewhere else, and they're all just like trying to figure it out. So I'm gonna go right into just kind of like what the market is doing right now and how it works in your favor if you are indeed a seller. Because one of the biggest questions that we get, not so much from the kids that need to sell a house for their parents, but more so for people who are still residing in their home and really kind of like need to start thinking about or moving towards the next chapter. 65% of people have interest rates that are under 4%. And I would say like that's a big thing to consider. Really tough to think about selling because if you're gonna buy something else, you're taking a mortgage on it like 7%. I don't know, today mortgage rate was at about 6.5, but let's just say 7 for fun. So if you're sitting at a low interest rate, it's a very tough thing to wrap your head around, selling and then buying something else. The other thing is though, with this market, inventory right now is under 3 months. What that means is if everything that's on the market right now sold, it would all be gone in 3 months if nothing else came on the market. Typically that indicates that it is still very much a seller's market. This doesn't necessarily apply to every single neighborhood on the island. Some neighborhoods sell faster than others. Places like Kailua, places like Mililani, neighborhoods like Waianae, neighborhoods like Eva, you might find that homes sit on the market a little bit longer. But as referenced in one of our other videos on this channel where we had a Mililani home for sale, that one was single level, 3 bedrooms, 1,500 square feet, no stairs, fully renovated. Homes like that are gonna outperform that statistic that I just shared. Also, about 30 to 40% appreciation has occurred since 2020. So if you're somebody that's sitting on that low interest rate and you're thinking it's gonna be impossible for me to ever sell this house, even though that house isn't exactly serving you anymore, maybe the stairs are starting to become a problem. Maybe it's a little bit too big for you. Your kids have already grown up. Nobody's making use of the yard. You've already stopped considering having a dog because maybe you wanna start traveling. You have a ton of equity in your home, and that equity might actually mean more than the interest rate. Let's talk about some of the fears and the common things that we hear when we talk to sellers. By the way, this is not a door knocking video where I'm like, hey you, the market's hot right now, let's sell your house. This isn't that at all. This is really just meant to help clear some of the air. I know that there are so many people actually that are like, feeling the anxiety of needing to sell someday. I will be honest, like even for me being at this certain age, knowing how quickly the last 20 years went for me, I'm already thinking like, gosh, in 10 years, I'm gonna be a certain age. And at that point, am I still gonna be able to maintain this 3-story home that I have with this huge yard that we bought specifically for the dogs that we have now and for the hopes of my family coming home from Vegas and gathering. I mean, the truth is they're really not coming home from Vegas to visit it as much as I thought. I recently turned a bedroom into my own office, which before I had all the bedrooms beautifully staged and ready for guests at all times. And this year I was like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna wait because they're not coming. So I'm gonna create a space for myself. But then when I look like 10 years down the road, I'm like, what's gonna happen then? But I have like a 4% interest rate. Oh my gosh. And these kinds of things can really keep you up at night. So even if you're not selling right now, hopefully this is a video that's resonating with you regardless. Okay, some of the fears that we hear are things like, I don't want to price it wrong. Another one is, well, what if we put it on the market and then it sits and nobody wants it and it becomes a museum? What if I end up leaving money behind and I actually, I don't price it right? I price it too low and then people lowball me and I end up getting less money than I thought. Or worse, what if we price it too high and then we sit and then we drop the price so much and then you still end up getting less money? We're gonna talk about all of this. And then where do I even go next with all of these thoughts that I'm thinking about? So let's address the pricing. One of the things that Koa and I spend a lot of time doing, I would say even when we meet with our clients, we're not even like touting our marketing materials or showing like all of the print media, you know, what we do for staging. We spend most of our time talking about price. We look at what the home sold for next door, of course. We look at what the home sold for 2 streets away. We look at a macro view of what's going on in the market. Every seller we talk to immediately mentions, because we'll ask, like, I know you have a number in your head of what your home can go for. What are you thinking? And they'll say, well, Zillow says, and that's totally fine. Zillow's great. It's fun to look at. That Zestimate isn't always accurate. One thing that the Zestimate can't tell you is, you know, what your floors are like, or what the house smells like, or what the neighbor's house is like, and if it's, you know, a yard full of stuff that's covered by a tarp, or if your street compared to the other street has a lot of cars on it, or if your street is actually empty compared to 2 streets away. These are things that actually affect price, or rather affect buyer behavior. So these are things that we're really gonna dial in on with you. We're gonna dial in on the condition of your home, because of course a Zestimate is gonna take all the data from the neighborhood regardless of the condition of the home. It doesn't know what your house is like. It doesn't know about the paint or the roof or the walls or the windows or any renovations that you've made. The other fear that a lot of people have is sitting on the market for too long. So this is, again, is where we dial in on pricing to make sure that you achieve the most desired outcome. Now we'll have sellers that will come to us and say, well, we're really not in a rush. So I'd really rather price high and then see. And to me, that is always a statement that's being made out of a place of fear. I'm afraid that if I price it too low, people are going to take advantage of me. And that's not anything that any agent wants, but Koa and I especially wouldn't want that for you. We don't want that for ourselves. We don't want to see a house sitting on the market for longer than it should. Now, generally speaking, in a market environment where homes, where there's 3 months or less of inventory, typically single family homes will go under contract in like 2 to 3 weeks. If it's priced too high, it might sit for 30 days or more. Case in point, I had a listing at Downsizing, older home, almost original condition. They did some renovations since they owned it since the 70s. This couple was close to 80 years old when they decided to sell it. It had stairs. These were conversations we were having regardless of what that Dowsett neighborhood was doing, because actually prices in that neighborhood are quite high. With this house, we really had to be sensitive to the price, just knowing there's stairs to get to the front door. So already you're eliminating a certain pool of buyers. The buyers you're eliminating are the ones that are looking to retire. You're also eliminating buyers that might be buying with their parents, with their aging mom, where they're all gonna combine their resources so that they can look after mom. We kind of like met in the middle. We priced it at 1.299. But we agreed that after 2 weeks, if we didn't get much activity, that we would drop the price. And so we did stick to that strategy. We dropped the price after 2 weeks from 1.299 to 1.249. And then within the next 2 weeks, we got an offer, but we sold at 1.2. So I often wonder what would have happened if we would have gone ahead and priced it right out the gate at 1.249. In addition to that, when buyers see homes sitting on the market a little bit longer, to them, they're smelling blood in the water and they feel like, okay, we're gonna do our inspection and then we're gonna ask for certain things, or we're gonna ask for credits or price reductions because now the seller is in a vulnerable position and we can do that. So I'm not saying that you wanna lowball yourself and price your property lower than what it's worth, but it's really important to spend time just looking at the data, analyzing your own desired outcome, and making sure that we do the right thing for you to get you the outcome that you're looking for. And then that also really speaks to just leaving money behind, right? So I know, like, selling a house or like buying and selling a car, they're two completely different things. We go into a car dealership and we automatically expect that we're not going to pay what's on that sticker. We're gonna get in there and we're gonna negotiate and we're gonna get less than what the sticker price was. And somehow the dealership still wins because they build it all in. Selling a house isn't the same way. It's a completely different psychology. So pricing it high and then like adjusting it down and negotiating down really isn't the best strategy. Pricing it too low also isn't the best strategy. For Koa and I, we say that it's best to really price it kind of like right on or even just a little bit under to get yourself the most amount of buyers as possible, but also to get a buyer that's truly committed and grateful when you choose them. This situation typically yields the highest return for you and the highest net proceeds, and you actually won't see yourself leaving money behind. Moving on to the next big fear. If I sell, where am I gonna go? And do I sell first or do I buy first? This is probably one of the most common questions we get, and it's also the one that paralyzes people the most, other than having to move like 50 years of stuff, which we'll get into as well. But sticking with the do I sell first or do I buy first question. This is a problem that actually gets solved a lot easier than you may think. So of course, selling first is going to put you in the best position as far as buying your next property. The money is on hand, you know how much you have. Perhaps you're going to be able to take all cash and buy the next property and really relieve yourself of a big mortgage payment and worrying about that higher interest rate in comparison to the low interest rate you previously had. Now, as far as like, okay, let's say that I'm gonna go ahead and sell my house. Do I sell it while I'm still living there or do I need to move out? We will always say that a vacant, staged, clean, decluttered home is going to sell faster and for more money than one that's occupied. But staying in the home while we're selling it is an option. It's just one that takes extra care and sensitivity, which of course we would be incredibly sensitive to. Making sure that we can make the house as available as possible to possible buyers, and being really respectful of your things and of your time. But again, we are still going to coach you to declutter and to simplify as much as possible. You will be shocked at how motivated you'll be if you do it this way, with people, you know, having to come and see your house, having to do open houses, having to kick you out, having to have you clean up for people to come in and see it. It's kind of amazing. At the same time though, the best case scenario is you finding a place to live while we have your home on the market. And also we would project and position it so that it sells as quickly as possible so that you're not displaced for too long. Typically this involves people moving in with parents, if they're able to, or moving in with kids, or even finding a rental for 3 to 6 months if that's a possibility as well. Again, it's a problem that's a lot easier to solve than what we think. Now, if you're going to buy first, this is a really sensitive scenario as well. Now, in a hot market, it kind of worked because like everything was selling at 2 and 3% and even 4% and maybe even in the low 5s, but right now that's not where we're at. I had a client last year who was like, I've got to get out of my townhouse. The HOA fees have gone up too much. There's a special assessment coming. I just don't want to live here anymore. She was in a position where she was doing very well financially with her job, and they were just ready to go. She had a teenager on her hands. She identified a house that she loved and decided to pursue it first. Her lender did a first and second mortgage in order for her to do it. That second mortgage was at like 10%. I had like really hard conversations with her about, now, are you sure you're gonna be okay with carrying all of this in the event that your townhouse doesn't sell? Because it is somewhat of a wounded property with the knowledge of a special assessment coming with the higher HOA fees. And sure enough, Her townhouse ended up taking about 8 months to sell. She knew this going in, and she was able to carry it and get through it just fine. But at the same time, it was something that was really quite stressful. Now, if you do the buy first and then sell, again, it really comes down to pricing it appropriately, making sure, again, that you have eyes wide open going into that situation. And that also, just that financially, you're not strapping yourself too bad for too long. Also making sure that you're in a position that the possibility of having to rent out your relinquished property or your other home, getting really real about that. Because if that property sits for 8 months, 9 months, you may have to consider renting it for a time before you put it on the market again. In her case, the market shifted. There were just things that were beyond our control, things that we couldn't project or see. We got through it, thankfully, but again, this is a very sensitive situation that we would want to have a specific conversation with you if this is something you choose to do. Okay, another one is a rent back agreement. So you could sell your house, close on it, but still live there for like 60 days. I had a client who did this last year as well. This was in a hot neighborhood, and the buyers were happy to do it, and it was competitive. We had I think 6 or 7 offers on this house, and so we stipulated up front that once the seller sells, he's gonna need 60 days to live here while he finds the next place to live. This is not a scenario that applies to everybody, but it was one that worked for him because, again, he was in a really hot neighborhood, and we had a lot of offers, so those buyers were happy to concede to that. There's really no one perfect sequence, but there's one that would work perfect for you. And again, this would entail a really good conversation with you. Real quick, I want to talk about taxes because for some people this holds them back as well, especially investors. So for investors, you're going to be subject to capital gains taxes if you haven't lived in the property for the last 3 years. You have to live in the property for 2 of the last 5 in order for it to qualify as your primary residence. Now, capital gains don't only apply to investors. If you've owned your home since the 70s and you have a ton of equity in it, you'll also be subject to capital gains. But if you're a couple selling your home, you'll be excluded $500,000. If you're a single, you'll have a $250,000 exclusion. Again, I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I will say that for some people, I could have 2 different sellers in front of me, and one is just hung up on taxes and what am I gonna do? I think I'm gonna have to do a 1031 exchange. There are some realtors also who will absolutely promote 1031 exchanges all day long because it means they sell your house and then you go and buy another one. And I'm not here to poo-poo on that because sometimes that is the best strategy, and I have helped buyers and sellers do that. But at the same time, I'll have another seller in front of me that's like, Mila, there's 2 things in life that are for sure: death and taxes. Taxes aren't the worst thing. I'll go ahead and eat it on the taxes and just move on. So we will always defer you to a CPA if this is something you're considering. This one's always kind of a tough conversation to have, and it's usually one that I'm having with a child and the parent, but it's that dream of staying in a home until you die. And when I think about it, I'm like, gosh, in the last 20 years, I've bought 3 different places. We started with our townhouse in Mililani, and then we sold that, and then we bought our condo in Kaka'ako, and then we sold that, and then now we've technically purchased our forever home. And then now I'm even thinking, well, is it really my forever home? It's got stairs. And I guess being in this industry, I probably think about it a lot more than most. But our parents, they really got to experience the American dream. And so did we, actually, if I'm being honest. I mean, our parents bought one home for the most part, and we lived in it all of our lives. Well, not my parents. My parents had their house until I was 9, and then they divorced, and we moved all over the place, which is a whole different subject, and we'll get into divorce in a bit. But in just speaking to our parents or to seniors, typically there's this idea of staying in the house until we die. And usually the daughter is sitting there going, no, Dad, you can't stay here. You fell in the shower the other night. Or they're saying, Mila, my mom really, she can't handle the stairs anymore. Or she left the stove on the other day. This is something that we really make sure to honor because it is something that's serious and it is a tough conversation to have, but it's one that I am probably the most proud to have with families, and just being able to be there with them to help them navigate through it. And the moment that mom or dad finally realizes it and says, okay, I realize that this is what I need to do. It's such a huge step in the home selling or the home ownership journey that we get to be a part of. And those conversations are had with the highest level of sensitivity. And sometimes it's not right for a person to sell, and a lot of times it's just not even the right time for them. And having that conversation gets their wheels turning. And then, I've had it where I had uncle who the daughter was telling him, Dad, you have to sell. And he didn't do it for 6 months. And 6 months later, it was like, you know what, fine, I'm ready. And they spent those 6 months going and looking at different communities. And they went to assisted living facilities like the Plaza or Arcadia, which are two of the popular ones here on the island. And then once they actually get in there and see kind of like the community and the lifestyle, they're like, maybe this would be fun for me to do. So anyway, that's one thing. The other thing that's tough once they decide to sell is, what am I going to do with all of this stuff? And we just navigated that for one of our clients. Now, mom and dad passed away, but the 4 kids were managing the sale of the property. And so once they all decided, hey, yeah, we're going to sell. None of us can buy each other out. It's time for us to let this house go. Koa and I jumped in. We arranged for junk removal people to come in. We have a program with our brokerage that allows you to do renovations and things like junk removal with no out-of-pocket expense. So none of the kids had to put forth any money. We were able to arrange it through the sale of the property to be paid through escrow at closing from the proceeds. So that's been really helpful to our sellers. And that program also, depending on how much you are allowed or how much you're given through the program, and everybody's situation is different, sometimes they'll use some of that to paint or to change flooring. Again, watch our video on the Mililani house that we sold at Noholoa Loop. We did that there, and that house ended up selling with like 6 offers over asking because we were able to give it a little bit of a lift, and the sellers are so happy that they didn't have to put forth any money or really any effort. Koa and I just said, hey, brothers and sisters, pack up the things that you want, leave the stuff that you're not going to keep, and we'll take care of the rest. But that's something that really will paralyze sellers, is I don't know what I'm going to do with all this stuff. And again, it's something that is easier than you think, kind of like laundry, like my workout clothes are usually like a big thing of laundry, and folding the socks and the shorts and the sports bras, it's a nightmare. Once I get into it and get it all folded, it's not like I'm like, okay, now what? Am I going to put it in the drawers? I always tell our sellers, you'll be amazed once you start, you won't be able to stop. And it's actually very healing and very cathartic to go through all the things and, just to talk about the memories. Oh my gosh, remember this? And you'll find old photo albums and things like that. And I don't know, it's kind of neat how it helps you to let go, helps you to move on. Okay, downsizing. This is a very real thing, and I kind of touched on it a little while ago. We've been talking to sellers recently that have quite a large house. It's just the 2 of them. They don't have any kids, and they've lived there for the last 20 years, and they're starting to look forward to retirement, and they're like, Ward Village is sounding really good to us. I'm excited about being able to just lock up, go on cruises, travel the world, pay that maintenance fee and know that everything's taken care of. No more doing yard work, no more cleaning 3 bathrooms, no more making 4 beds, no more dusting all the things, worrying about the roof. I mean, all of this is really like a big downsize for people, and it just allows them to live out the rest of their life going and seeing the world, or walking around Ward Village and eating in restaurants. And it doesn't necessarily have to be Ward Village per se. I mean, there's a lot of really great single level homes out there that are a little smaller than your 2-story home on the hillside. But also keep in mind that single level homes are highly sought after by all kinds of buyers. You're gonna have, young couples that just have 1 baby or 1 dog that are really interested in it, especially because the price point often fits their budget. And you're also going to have those downsizers. So sometimes those can be quite competitive, and it's going to take a little bit more strategy. But again, that's due for a specific conversation. Buying with adult children, this is something that we see for our seniors. I've got one right now in mind. So mom, actually, well, is she a senior? No, not quite. I want to say she's close to 60. Well, they're calling 55 and over seniors, aren't they? I'm getting really close to that, and I'm really like having to accept that in my mind. I'm not really that close to it, but anyway. Okay, so I've got a friend, she's close to 60. She's got 2 daughters that have their husbands and their kids. One of the families is like, Mom, why don't we put our resources together and try to buy something together? And it's kind of cool to see mom doing it a little earlier rather than waiting into her 70s, because right now she's still earning an income. And so she'll be able to qualify for it with her kids. And the interesting thing that happens is, mom's still making money, the kids are making money, you're looking at their trajectory. Hopefully their income is going to grow as mom starts to cap out. And so doing it a little sooner than later could work out better for that family rather than waiting until mom's on a fixed income and 70. So this is a really great strategy, either buying a house with an ADU so that mom still has her space. Because let's face it, a lot of our moms and dads are like, I don't want to live with you. I'm independent. I want my own space. I'm talking about my mom right now. But even buying a house that's got like a mother-in-law suite on the first floor, we see a lot of those. We'll see even where families will come together and buy a place where there's a full bedroom and bathroom on the first floor. So that's another really great strategy for our seniors. But hopefully this video has spoken to all of our audiences. I think the senior profile could probably have its own video. But again, we wanted to just open the door up to sellers and not just home buyers. If any of this has resonated with you today, or if you think it might resonate with somebody you know, please go ahead and share this video. Leave us a comment if there's more discussion you'd like to have. And if you'd like to work with us, email us at info@dwellhawaii.com.